The one that could have been part 1 is the 15th episode of the 6th season of Friends. This is directed by Michael Lembeck, and as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. And it's a pretty solid episode. It's not a personal favourite, so I don't necessarily think it should have been a 2-parter. That's not to say I don't like the next episode, but for me, I think it would have just been fine as a 1-parter. But nevertheless, it's not bad. Rachel comes into Central Park and announces that Barry and Mindy are getting divorced. And as I think I mentioned, there will be spoilers from now as I explain the aftermath of this conversation, because Ross then wonders what it would be like if he never got divorced from Carol. And they all wonder what their lives could have been like. And then Ross asks if they'd still hang out together if they'd gone down those different paths. And then the rest of the episode is an alternate reality where they all have these different lives. And I'll basically talk about each of the characters in turn and share some thoughts. Usually with Friends, I'll go through things scene by scene. But with this one, I'm just going to give some thoughts on the characters and their situations and a few other thoughts along the way. So with Ross, Ross actually bumps into Rachel at the beginning. Ross is still with Carol. They are having problems in the bedroom. And it's peculiar to see Ross and Carol interacting together as if they're still a married couple, and Ben is there, which is very sweet. Ross is doing his karate, to borrow his pronunciation. Ross was not too bad in this episode. Rachel, of course, is still married to Barry, and she doesn't act as spoilt and is entitled as I would have believed for her character based on how she was when she was younger and then going down that road with Barry. I feel like the Rachel in this one's maybe, for the most part, a little too similar to Rachel as we know her. However, the one thing that Rachel does do in this that's maybe not the Rachel that we know is consider cheating on her husband with Joey. Because Joey comes into Central Park, she gets all excited that it's Dr. Drake Ramori, and of course Monica explains that they're friends with Joey, and Rachel considers going on a date with Joey, and that's actually how the episode ends. The episode ends with Rachel phoning Joey and saying that actually she can go on the date, and he asks her to bring sandwiches. So I guess we end on a bit of a cliffhanger of will Rachel go through with it, and of course we'll talk about that in the next episode. Monica is more plump than usual, and she's dating somebody, but it's not everybody's a fan of the relationship, and honestly, we don't get too much of Monica's personal life here. We find out that she's still a virgin, but that's basically it. The final scene is actually Monica dancing, which is quite a happy way to end things. So Monica's character, it feels like they were just kind of trying to get humour because she's larger and a virgin. I would have liked to have known a little bit more in this episode about her life, her career, her path, her journey. Compared to the others, we don't get a lot of that. Chandler, however, we definitely get quite a lot of from where he is currently. Chandler is trying to write for Archie Comics. I can absolutely see Chandler as a writer, and we do get to see, I don't want to say too much about this, but in future seasons or future episodes, we do get to see some creative side of Chandler, but I can absolutely see him being a comic writer. And what's quite interesting here is that we have a bit of role reversal, because in this episode, Joey is the one with the money, and he hires Chandler as his assistant, because Chandler is short on cash while he's trying to make it as a writer. Obviously, in reality, usually it's Chandler lending Joey the money, and Joey is not the kindest to Chandler. He doesn't want the pulp in his orange juice, and he shouts at him, and I like the fact that Chandler was able to turn that around and write a comic strip about milkshake with lumps, and they make up at the end, and it was lovely, and I really liked Chandler's character in this. Out of all of them, I feel like Chandler's, maybe Monica's, but Chandler's was definitely the most believable. I guess Joey's as well as a big TV star, but Chandler's is the one I enjoyed the most. And then we have Phoebe, and Phoebe is not like Phoebe. She is mean, she smokes, she is career obsessed, and ends up having a heart attack, which is quite heavy. They obviously managed to get some comedy out of it, but it was quite a serious part of the episode. And I do think out of them all, Phoebe's is maybe the most unrealistic. I'm not saying it couldn't happen that way, but it's the least believable alternate character to the others. I guess Ross is basically just the same. So it's interesting. As a novelty, it's not too bad, but as I said, I don't really feel like I want a second part. There is some value to the second episode. It's not so much that I don't think it's very good or anything. But at the same time, I feel like the novelty, for me, wears off after the first episode. But more on that with the second one when we get there. It's still a decent episode, and certainly the one that could have been part one is not too bad at all.